5 for...
Hello, friends. It's match week 17, or the conclusion of match week 17. We are here, Geoff, Ben, and I, to recap the insanity, the drama, the narrative-laden match week 17 that was. Fellas, how are we doing this week? Ben, how are we?
Doing good. Post-Christmas. Doing dry January. So no booze in January. That's the plan. I'm going to start working out, but I haven't quite got to that part yet.
But you're replacing booze with chocolate. Is that right?
Chocolate, yes. Yeah.
What? So why no booze? Well, it's very cold outside. Bourbon helps with that. So why, maybe, August would be a good month for no bourbon, right?
I think I keep, the longest I've gone without drinking since the age of 14 is probably 2 weeks. And that's when I've been, super sick with, a cold or the flu or something like that. So I think I just need to prove to myself, for sanity's sake, that I could go a whole month without drinking.
Master of your domain. I get it. I get it. Geoff, how are we doing this evening? Geoff is having problems. We are not hearing Geoff. We're hearing some clicking sounds.
Oh, here we go. Apologies. I'm finally connected. I've got my sound set up. Apologies. I'm here. Did you ask me a question?
We asked you how you were doing, and then we heard some sort of alien clicking language.
Is the what is that Predator? It's Predator that clicks, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I was trying to think if it was Alien or Predator, but it's the Predator. It's hard. Yeah. Those genres mix.
I don't really. Hopefully, there isn't the Predator isn't in my room with me right now. I'm doing well. I'm same as Ben. I'm doing dry January as well, actually, and I'm feeling different. It's there's clarity to my thoughts and to my and I just feel a bit better connected to my body.
It's been 4 days.
5. It's the 5th of January. It's been 5 days.
Okay.
Well, I was drinking every day over Christmas, so it's a big difference.
Every day over Christmas. Try every day every the year, man.
Yeah.
Let's not delineate. Let's not delineate. Daddy's got to get his medicine at night, guys. All right, fellas. We're into match week 17. We are going to start off cathartically with my lot for the match of the week. Chelsea 1, City 3. We had let's say a tepid, passive conversation in the wake of this match off pod. Ben, I'm going to start with the positives out of this match because to the victors go the spoils. Ben, my question of the week to you, is City poised to go on a run here? It seems like the Premier League has not really distanced themselves from a poor, sputtering City, and now City the Death Star is operational, it seems.
I think they looked Death Star operational for about 20 minutes in that game. I still think I struggle with the team isn't very deep right now. So you've got people out with COVID, people breaking COVID rules. I think more than anyone, City has looked like a team that suffered from fatigue, both mentally and physically. And this tight run of games won't help them. So they're still in some cup games, Champions League. They've got the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup tomorrow as well. But that said, their next run of 5 games is all against lower half teams. So I expect them to come out near the top of the table, especially in the next 5 weeks or so. I think Aguero coming back is going to be big for them as well. They've shown how smart they can be at how they manage games, turn it on when they need to score, and then just control the rest of the game like they did against Chelsea. I think at their best, though, their pace, their passing and speeds, unbeatable. I don't know if De Bruyne can play every game, and they're so over-reliant on him for that quick transition from defence to attack, much like Bruno Fernandes at United and Grealish. So I don't know. I think I'd like to say they should do really well in the next few games, but I just worry that it's going to be too many games for their quite low depth of squad they had right now. COVID can come at a worse time for that team.
So, Ben, you mentioned De Bruyne. I thought he might have been the standout of the match. But, Geoff, I'm going to ask you, It seemed like Foden was firing. De Bruyne had a good match. Gundogan, I always struggle with his name, so forgive me for that. Was it German Turkish? I can't.
Yeah.
It's German Turkish. I thought he had the goal of the match. That little dummy that he had to sort of skin Thiago Silva was incredible, and I thought Sterling was very good. So, of that sort of attacking quadrant, Geoff, who did you think posed the biggest problem for Chelsea in that match?
That's a really good question. I think the thing they're all doing amazing. They're all playing amazing. Gundogan's finish was outrageous, and just the pure power of it on the turn was really, really impressive, and what took it past Mendy, who actually got a few fingertips to it. But I think overall, it's just like, as always, I just feel the most consistent threat does come from De Bruyne, and I just see, particularly in that game against Chelsea. He was playing false nine at certain points, and he's just dropping into all kinds of spaces, dropping out left, dropping out right, dropping into traditional number 10 spot, playing number 9, like all over the place. Like that guy is like, can be absolutely unplayable when he's in that kind of form. So really, really, really impressive. And I think like that is a good question that Ben raises, like, can he play every game? And because I just feel like if there's anyone who is just the most consistent performer and central, if Man United are gonna, if City are gonna go on a run, if this is like the second coming of that City team that we haven't seen for so many months. I don't know, have we even seen it for a year now? I can't quite remember. It feels like it's been so long. I think De Bruyne is going to be central to it.
Yeah, I think the funny thing about De Bruyne is, so I try to watch some of these games. Like, I grew up not being a football soccer fan, so I always try to like look at, if you brought Cristiano Ronaldo to a bar in America, and you like, I curse Cristiano Ronaldo's too famous. I'm trying to think of someone who's like not very famous but looks like an athlete. De Bruyne, I think, is the highest index of best soccer player, one of the best soccer players of the world. That if you took him to a bar in Omaha, Nebraska, people would be like, "No way is that guy a professional athlete." Zero chance. Like, you could say, like, I think you could put David Silva in there because David Silva is like very frail, or like someone like that, and people be like, I guess he might play soccer. But De Bruyne looks like, I don't know, that he should be a professional Warzone player, not a soccer player. I always find that funny with how good De Bruyne is. I think that for Americans, it would be hard to put him on like a Wheaties box and say that is a peak professional athlete.
I think it's funny, he doesn't have the genetics of an athlete.
No.
And so when he comes in with his red hair and his goatee and little red face and like out of breath, that's how I look like after 10 minutes of exercise. I can relate to that. But you get Cristiano glistening with his chiseled abs. You're like, well, that's impossible. He's a machine. I think De Bruyne gives the everyman hope that we just have to be talented to make it, not just good genes.
I mean, besides that, he's got the soccer player backside, like a big, gotta have that low center of gravity. But besides that, I just look at him and be like, I could, if I had to sell this to my friends, they'd be like, that's not the poster boy I would sell like football to. Although watching him is brilliant. He's brilliant. All right, fellas, you both reside across the pond. I don't know, Geoff, actually, what your feelings of the English national team. Quickly, what is your feelings of the? Are you God save the Queen when the World Cup's tears come along, or are you more passive when it comes to the World Cup?
No, I'm not. Well, kind of neither. I'm definitely not God save the Queen because I'm not a fan of that anthem. I don't quite see what she's going to do with it. Hit her or God. But I know what you mean. I will like get very, very passionate about it. I love the World Cup. I love following my national team. When I lived in London, actually, before I moved to the States, I was like an England Fans Plus member, and I would go to games at Wembley, and I would, and I'd love go to the pub, go and watch them. It was my birthday 2 years ago. No, it wasn't my birthday 2 years ago, but 2 years ago I was in Vegas with Angelica and her aunt and uncle, and I made sure to drag them along to the World Cup game. It was actually the semi-final, England-Croatia. And so, I will watch them whenever I can. When it comes to friendlies, I don't know, I do struggle a little bit, but major competitions, huge.
So we're in the trust tree. Like I think Ben would say, although I am not an Englishman, I have a more than passive interest in the English national team that
Okay.
I thought. So we're all in the trust tree here. I mean, America for me number one, maybe Brazil number two, but England like certainly there. So we're in the English trust tree. We're all pro the Three Lions. We love Southgate's attire, maybe not his managerial tactics, whatever. Are we welcoming John Stones back into the England trust tree? Can he join us in is he rolling back to is it 2018 again? And John Stones is the English center half of choice.
I think if he's, I tell you what, we've got a new John Stones on our hands right now. From what I'm seeing and what I'm looking at, I know it just seems like a completely different player. I don't know how it's happened. Also, as a completely different person, he's exuding confidence. He's ordering people around. He seems more vocal. I mean, for that to happen after what happened to him and the form and the drop in form that he went through, and then being dropped essentially by Guardiola, that can be the end of someone quite really easily. So it really is a measure of the man that he's back. And he's probably, I don't know, one of the first choices on the team sheet for the City at the moment, if he keeps playing like that. And so if he's doing that for City, I'd love to see him do it in a three-line shirt. Ben, you look hot to answer this question.
No, I think I agree with everything. I think some of it of the performance, one was, they say, his personal life. I know he had past relationships that were breaking up, and his baby mama and all that stuff. And that can be distracting off the field stuff that stops you focusing. I think it's hard to play in a Pep squad. The fact that you make one mistake and then you're gone. So Laporte made a couple of mistakes that Pep pulled him up on and pulled him out and put Stones in. And I think you're in that team until you make a mistake. Stones does look like he's great on confidence, but is he number one on that team sheet next to Maguire? I think he's definitely in the running. I think he's probably going to be trusted. It's also interesting as well, just from where we changed maybe last year. So if the Euros took place when they should last year, we had no centre-backs, and that was a big point of discussion, how weak we were in that centre. I think this year, though, is given a bit of time. We've had an emergence of Dyer with Spurs, Saka, and then Tyrone Mings. We're in a much better state with centre-backs than we were last summer, and now you've got this plethora of choice. I think that'd be the only reason keeping Stones out. But from an England point of view, I think it's really good to have that competitive spot back, and that's something we didn't have a year ago.
Not the week to bring up Tyrone Mings, because I don't know what he was doing in the Villa game. He was marking nothing. But I agree that even Kyle Walker can play at center back, right? Kyle Walker has been kind of rejuvenated in this. He's missing right now for City, but was playing well before this COVID break. All right, fellas, let me just say this. I think as fans sometimes, when you watch something in your club that is, when people are telling you that it's okay and you're watching not the results but the performances, you just know the performances are not trending. So Chelsea have gotten 7 out of 27 points from the top 10 teams, have not beaten a side in the top 8. They are 3 points adrift of where they were last season after investing all this money. It's just simply not good enough, right? And that is the message that I think if Frank Lampard were a player, evaluating Frank Lampard, the manager, and knowing what Frank Lampard did as a player, his analysis would not be very good. So I don't think that, Roman Abramovich needs to, hand Frank Lampard his walking papers now. But I do think that questions need to be asked, that he is a club legend, but I do not think, I think in our chat, I said this was an internship. It is not an internship, right? That I get it that he's learning on the job and that's not his fault, but as City and Liverpool have come back to the pack, and as you invested $200 million into the side, now I've always said it's not just $200 million, it's over 3 transfer windows, yada, 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 whatever. You expect when it seems like every team in front of you is stepping on rakes that you'd be playing a little bit better. Maybe even if the results weren't going your way, right? I can say in this losing streak, that West Ham game, they won 3-0. That was not a 3-0 result. It just wasn't watching that match. It's been really dire, and he's got to get fixed. So probably a little bit too passionate about it, but I think the hard thing is when what do you think about that? How about Geoff? you went through Watford. Ben, you've had your downsides of United. When you're watching it and you're like, this is worse than what people like tell me it is. How do you deal with that when people say, oh, Geoff, maybe when someone said like, oh, you shouldn't have fired that manager. You're like, wait a second, this is awful. I've watched like 6 weeks of this and it's just not good. How do you deal with that when the outside is different than what you feel like you're watching on the screen?
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point. And from like it's easy for everyone else to have their opinion and make their objective points and all of that. But when you're the fan watching it, you're the fan who pays the money and buys the shirt and follows the team, and so you have a right to feel aggrieved by it. And I do know what that's like, particularly with some of the football that Watford have played over the past few years has been so dire. But then we make a change of manager, but then the only narrative that comes out is like it's just people adding numbers together and just saying, oh look at now Watford are in their fifth manager of the season. No looking at any context. Oh, they're on their 12th manager in 7 years. No context of like why those individual managers left, or the fact that most of them came to the end of their contract, that 2 of them were interim managers whilst waiting for like a permanent replacement. One of them had a heart attack and had to leave. Like all of these people don't talk about that. So I understand that like the views from the outside do not always match the reality of the experience of the fan. Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And I think you're right. It really doesn't look good for Chelsea. And I totally agree that their form is a nightmare at the moment. But I think the thing is, it's not like I remember at the start of the season when Lampard was in and they were just like leaking goals left, right and centre. And they were going forward really well and attacking really well. And this comes back from like last season as well, when he was playing with them. Great going forward, but then struggling in defence. And they made some changes, brought in some players, changed things around and started defending really well. And they went on that really great run of clean sheets, and they switched up the goalkeeper and that started really, really well. And now they were in form. For a decent amount of time. It wasn't just like one game here, one game there. That felt they were in form for quite a while, and then and now they've fallen out of form again. If they had been playing like they were playing now all season and hadn't showed any signs of any ability to play good football, then I think I'd be feeling the same as you. But I think I'm just not. It just seems too soon at the moment. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Ben, I think that in our previous conversations, you were calling Chelsea a little bit of a flat track bully with some of the teams they were getting results against, kind of in that run. And I want your perspective on this. I think what Lampard now is facing is a problem is that it's not a meritocracy in the Chelsea side right now. That the players that were scoring the goals are not getting the the time in the squad because he's trying to integrate someone like Timo Werner, and that's like. That doesn't sit well when you're not winning. When you're winning, it can kind of go. But if the side is seen as not being a meritocracy and you're losing, I think that is maybe the worst locker room thing that you can have happen. And that's what I'm worried for Chelsea is Timo Werner on run of form. There's no way that Timo Werner should be starting at the 9. Just shouldn't. And Tammy Abraham has played well enough to where he probably should. Him or Giroud should write their names into the team sheet well before Timo Werner. And I get it. I get you trying to integrate Werner. You have a lot invested in him. But when you're in a bad run of form, it's kind of not the time to do that. Ben, what do you think about managers facing sort of that meritocracy issue versus maybe longer term board objectives in a club like someone like Pogba, maybe? Like, how do you deal with those situations of high profile signs not firing?
I think that's one of the key things within management that no one talks about. Their people management, and they do talk about it, and it's a key thing, but I don't think it's given enough weight as a quality signing manager, but that man-manager perspective as well. And I keep watching, and it's really famous, but how Sir Alex Ferguson used to deal with rotation within his squad, and how he used to make the peel. But Gary Neville says it best. He's like, listen, I need you in this match against City. And then Gary Neville, but that's in he's like, you're my man. He's like, well, that's 4 games. You're telling me you're leaving me out the squad for 4 games, or are you telling me that I'm your man against City? So it's a really, really careful balance. And I think it is a balance. And I think there's a way to, it's a really thing to do. I understand the need to play Werner because you need to give him time to adapt, time to get to the system, time to build his fitness, build his confidence. But then you also need to win the game as well. So you want to bring back your tried and tested. And I think what it shows Frank isn't doing is maybe the more fresh manager part of that man management. I think you can come in there and talk about Chelsea and DNA and knowing the club and what an honour it is to play. And I think Ole does that as well. But some of it is just about making players feel special, making them feel worth, breaking down clips, creating a team spirit, that mentality. Mourinho does it really well. And I don't think that's something that Lampard necessarily has right now. And it's probably why you're seeing these fractions in the squad.
Yep. It's got to get better. I think we talked about, like, of course I would like a more stable club, but I just want Frank to be held to a standard probably that Frank Lampard would hold other managers to him when he was a player at Chelsea. So we'll see. He can turn it around. He's got Fulham. Nothing like get right game playing against. Fulham's a little better. I shouldn't pick on
Derby though. Big Derby.
Oh yeah. Yeah, really.
What's funny about this season is we can all say we've all been there very recently. United can say we were there with we should get rid of, or we should ask more questions of Ole. Turned it round. Arteta turned it round. Pep turning it round. Like, it's just, if this season is a microcosm for a roller coaster of emotions behind your team, you said earlier that you feel that you've got a real chance because other teams are stepping on rakes right now. That doesn't mean that Chelsea aren't going to step on their own rakes as well. So it's all to be expected. And I think there's what we were saying is no one's saying that we shouldn't ask questions about Frank. I do think that as long as he isn't relegation trouble, then he should probably give him to the end of the season, because you've got to give him the rest of the season to kind of iron out those patches of form, just understand how good he is as a manager. You can only tell with a season of this squad under his belt.
Well,
I think calling for Ferguson, like, I know it's like an old adage, right? But like in his first season at United, they were calling for Fergie to be sacked, weren't they? Yeah. It was like they were awful, absolutely awful. And I know it's different. I know it can't be compared, but like I think there is, it's worth biding your time over that.
I think the thing is, and I'll end it here. It's like some people talk about like Klopp, and like Klopp went to a Champions League final with Dortmund. When he's not hitting patches of form, you can point to something on his CV and say, well, look, this guy has proven himself to be a very competent manager. And if he hits a bad product form, let's look over Sir Alex Ferguson. I think he won a UEFA Cup in Scotland, right? Like
with Aberdeen. Yeah.
With Aberdeen, there's a proven tracker. So I get the patience, but when you don't have a resume, it's not reassuring because you've never done this before.
Yeah.
So that's not Frank Lampard's fault. That's the board's fault. But I guess my feelings, I can't really evaluate. I can't really evaluate I don't really want to evaluate my manager on a curve. Like I really don't. I want the best manager for that role. So I think that, and there's something to be said about, the fans like getting behind him after Sarri. And I think if the fans didn't hate Sarri so much, there's no way that Frank Lampard would have been hired. But anyways, enough about Chelsea. Enough of this cathartic me just venting about Frank Lampard. Let's go to Ben's side of the pod. United 2, Villa 1. Ben. Paul Pogba is one of the richest footballers on the planet. He is an Instagram icon. He's a World Cup winner. I didn't know he had to have a side hustle as a dive instructor, telling Luke Shaw how to take a dive, and then minutes later taking a dive himself. Ben, what do you think about Paul Pogba's side hustle as a dive instructor?
I think, to be serious, I think that's a part of their game. I think winning penalties in a box.
You think?
Yeah, right. It's part of their game, and I think it really suits their play as well. They've got quick players who are skillful, and they work the ball into the box. So you're going to win those penalties, and you've got Bruno to tuck them away. So I don't, and 100% like the bias of a Man United fan here, but that was a penalty, and it went back to the Man United studio. It went back to the Match of the Day studio. It was pretty clear cut. Everyone there said that was a penalty. So I think there's probably better examples in the world of Man United winning penalties. I think that Pogba one was honestly pretty clear cut. He took out his back leg reaching across, but Klopp's. It feels like Klopp's picking on United as well about winning, getting so many penalties. And if you look at the actual number of penalties between the two teams, it's maybe 1 or 2 difference. It's not that much. But let's not cover up. It was a great game of football, not a particularly great performance by United. I think United have done. Talk about why we still question Ole is that the results are definitely outweighing the performance still. It seems to be very, very skillful players that are winning the games versus really we played well and deserved it. There are some green shoots in that team, though. I think Pogba, although he did win that penalty, he had a good all-round game as well, having more of an impact, working harder without the ball. Bailly, he had a great game in that centre-back partnership as well. So, and Shaw's coming through as well. He's playing more of an attacking role. We saw Spider be more of attacking fullback down the right and actually putting a cross that we scored off. So there's definitely some green shoots in there. And I think that's, again, goes back to giving a manager time to imprint it, because these are things that we definitely weren't doing in the first half of the season. It was still a very, very close game, though. And Jack Grealish, oh, my God, he is a absolutely fantastic player.
So 2 things. One, the reason why I brought up Pogba diving is he was literally on camera telling Luke Shaw to dive. So it's hard when it goes to VAR about a player who was literally minutes before saying, "Hey, Luke Shaw, take a dive there." It's like,
what's the context for that? I don't understand. I didn't see that. What, like in the game, he was like coach saying, "Hey, don't forget to dive."
Yes, Luke Shaw was driven into the box and got knocked off the ball, and Pogba sitting on the 18-yard box, and it's like, dive next time. Yeah. Literally put his hands out and said, dive. So
I suppose he's then saying what he's doing. He's saying what like everyone knows. Really, that's all he's doing.
You have to go down with contact.
Just say it out loud. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just feel like, and I know I've brought this up before, it's a real bone of contention for me. Like the penalty situation, the penalty farce that's going on in the Premier League at the moment. I don't know what's happening. I don't see it really in many other. It's weird that VAR was brought in to like minimize this kind of mess and confusion. But it feels like it's just escalated it. I'm not going to go on a VAR rant, but like without a doubt, I felt that penalty where Paul Pogba was like taken out was one of the clearest, fairest, most genuine penalties I've seen all season. The rest of them, it's like, oh, someone's brushed their shoulder and they've twisted and thrown themselves down to the ground. But this, he clipped his leg, which then caused him to trip on himself, and he went down. It was just like, it's a clear penalty. He was just, I suppose, it is hilarious. You're right that he's doing that, and love Paul Pogba for that. I think he's going up in my opinion for that. But just like, he's just literally saying what everyone's saying in the coaching room, what everyone's saying on the training field, what literally every manager is telling every forward player to do on the pitch is to go down when there's contact in the penalty area.
Agreed. Bryn brought up, so agreed on Pogba. I don't hate him for it. It was just a funny, like
it was, yeah.
But Ben, you brought up Jack Grealish. I have to say, I think it's probably a good idea on a free kick to make sure you understand where Jack Grealish is. What was United doing there? He was wide open. Like probably the best player out of, Villa might be a Big Six club this year, but outside the Big Six, he's probably the if they had an MVP of outside the Big Six, he would probably be that guy. What was happening on that free kick? I have no idea.
They built a wall to stop the quick free kick, so they stood in front of the ball, like trying to hold it up. And they just slipped it along the line to Grealish. So too busy, like they thought that wall in front would stop it. But yeah, Grealish just crept off like the Pink Panther to the sideline and then just whipped it in for a decent finish. I guess there's no excuse. They thought they were doing a good job with their just holding the ball up. I guess not. He's so good. I don't even feel bad when that happens. I get it.
It's interesting when athletes start having a impact beyond their play, like people try to fashion themselves. So I noticed some of the Arsenal youngsters were dropping their socks below their calves, pulling the Grealish. I think it was Rowe was doing that in the Arsenal match. That's the new trend now. It's just you got to flex them calves. I am not the only admirer of Jack Grealish's calves. It seems like we got so it'll be interesting to see if in years that if you were to go to a football pitch anywhere, seeing if the youngsters are dropping their socks to be like Jack Grealish. I feel like that's going to happen. That's going to be the new trend.
We've talked about having an RAF 11. So we've got Scott Parker, Chilwell, Billy Gilmore, people that can be in the RAF. And then we have our lads 11 as well. There's Stones, Vardy, Grealish, Dele Alli probably in there as well. I'd like to bring to the group a Viking 11 because I saw Matty Cash and he's got this wicked little Viking beard. Absolutely loved it. He's going to head up my Viking 11. And then Yannick Vestergaard, Kasper Schmeichel and Timo Werner will also get in that Viking 11. I'm wondering if you've got any more ads or challenges to the Viking 11.
Yeah, I have. I know he's not. I know he's not. I think by the name he's not Scandinavian, but Dan Burns looks like a big.
Oh, we're gonna come to Dan Burns in a second. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, we do have him. I just feel like he looks like that. He's tall, blonde, blue-eyed, could be a White Walker. But obviously Timo Pukki, his beard's getting pretty out of control at the moment, but he is only in the lowly championship, so I guess it doesn't count.
So I would say this. So I assume with Vikings a little bit more of a rectangular facial structure, not a very sharp facial structure, but like I think now, Ben, it's not your favorite hairstyle, and this is going to be the thing. I think Reece James would make a good Viking. Very squatty, very his facial features. Again, his hair, not your favorite, not the Viking. Although Vikings actually do have some sort of dreadlocks. We go back. It's just maybe not styled the way. So I'm going to submit Reece James into the Viking 11. I would say Timo Werner's. You hear him talk, it's not Viking. It's like maybe it's the German to English accent, but he doesn't really come off as like scary in his tone of voice. So I'll substitute out one Chelsea player and put in another. Okay, good lead into the Viking 11. We'll be thinking about that coming next week. I'll do my homework, see if I can't nominate someone else to the Viking 11. We need to start putting this down: the lads 11, the RAF 11, the Viking 11. Geoff brought up Dan Burns. Now, let me tell you guys, this is probably the most surprising scoreline that I've seen in a while. When you see Brighton go down by 2 goals, you just turn off the TV and say, it's over. Like, that is done. Game, set, match. Let me tell you, folks, Brighton was down 1-3 at half. They came back for a kind of really compelling 3-3 draw at Wolves. But let's talk about that first half. Dan Burns had a nightmare first half. Didn't pull up the Viking powers on that one. Own goal in the first half and PK in the first half. Ben, how surprised were you? You have a little bit of no, you don't have an affinity. You have an affinity for Reading. For Brighton, how surprised were you to see after a nightmare first half, Brighton overturn that scoreline not overturn it, but level it up 3-3 quickly in the second half, mind you.
Yeah, especially Wolves are normally so defensively disciplined as well. But it was a weird game overall. It was a game that was low on quality yet high on action. So lots of set-piece goals, lots of back and forth stuff as well. I think the highlight for me was Adama Traore. Absolutely ran them ragged. But yeah, Brighton did really well to fight back. I think Dan Burns, there's nothing he could have done with that own goal. That was super unlucky. Anyone in the Premiership standing there would have bounced off their leg and gone in. But I do think he gave away a corner. I do think that the penalty kick as well, that side down of Traore was just... It was just clumsy beyond belief. But he did not look like a Premiership footballer in that game as well. But it was a weird game.
Ben, I gotta ask you: did you see the overturned call that Brighton would have put it bid up 4-3? I think that was trash. Anytime a defender gets touched and he drops, they call it a penalty. I like to see a little bit more jostling there. I did not think that was worthy of a foul. Did you think that was worthy of a foul and an overturn of a goal?
I don't. I think it's hard from the keep. I know you've got VAR, but from where the referee's angle is, it's so hard to see when players are back to back, and it looks like he's putting him back, but from the other angle, it doesn't. I think it doesn't. I really hate talking about these decisions and second guessing the referees and like what they are. You know what? He'd say it wasn't a goal. That's all there is. But I don't think it was. But that doesn't really match in the grand scheme of things.
I think more to the point, I think that it's funny because we never think about VAR taking away goals on like for offensive fouls. Generally, it's more of like giving goals because of defensive fouls. I don't know. I just like to see defenders be a little stronger in that, have a little bit more pride than what fell right there. Okay, Geoff, I have a question for you. As one of the fashion experts on this pod, I think we're all three fashion experts on this pod. Wolves' away kit was absolute garbage. Bergen in a no booze January for my two podcast co-hosts. Like the Vino away kit, horrible. And here's my question: why did they wear it? It would have been so aesthetically pleasing to see the Brighton blue versus the Wolves yellow. Those colors work together as opposite sides. Geoff, what is your opinion of the Wolves Vino away kit?
I'm not trying to be contrarian here. That's not why I'm on this podcast. But I think it's all right. I kind of like it. Look, I always it's a homage to the Portugal kit. It's kind of a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek.
I didn't think about that.
To the fact that there's so many Portuguese players.
Think about that.
It's basically a Portuguese club now. And that's what it's about. And actually, funnily enough, you should say that. I was watching the game and Angelica walked through the lounge while I was watching. She goes, "Oh, I like that new Wolves kit. That's really nice." And I was like, "Yes." So I think the problem is they're not offsetting that burgundy with the classic green because that would be too Portuguese, and so it's like that dark color, like a dark brown with the burgundy, which is a bit weird. I'll give you that, but you know what? I'm a fan of the dark kit. I like Man United's back in the day, their all black kit. We've talked about kits. We talked about like how good Fabianski looks in goal in his all black, how good Alisson looks in his all black, how good the All Blacks rugby team look in their all black, and a dark kit, like all matching short socks shirt. Oh, I love it. I think it's all right. I think it's okay. It could be better. I do not have the disdain for it that you do, though. I think they probably wore it, though. You're right, though. I think why do they even wear it when their first kit doesn't clash with Brighton's home kit? I think it's just marketing to sell more shirts. It's like, oh, look, here's the shirt, put it on display so people are going to buy it. I think that's the only reason they do that.
Quickly before Ben, I get your opinion on the Wolves' horrendous kit. That was a horrible take, Geoff. But funny you should say that about the black kit. You know, Mourinho will not allow. So Peter Cech studies. Like Peter Cech is, like probably one of the smarter football players, and he did some sort of analysis that said that brighter kits can have an effect. Right, so he always wanted to wear like a highlighter color, like highlighter orange, highlighter yellow, highlighter green. Mourinho would not allow him to wear that. He thought it was offensive for the keepers to have those colors. So that Cech always wore a muted color as a Chelsea keeper because Mourinho, his sartorial choice was not the highlighter kits. So interesting little factoid there. I haven't even checked that for Spurs, but I'm going to check that next time to see if the French keeper has anything highlighter. He's reversed his opinion. Ben, what do you think about the burgundy kit?
I thought it was very Christmas colours, and I'm okay with it wearing during this time, like very on brand for Christmas. Big fan. I wish more teams wore Christmas themed kits during this time, but as soon as Christmas is over and the decorations come down, you can't wear those kits anymore. I think you have to change. The thing that bothered me with that kit most was you can't read the wording on the kit.
No!
Those colours don't contrast. So if I was their sponsor, I'd be super mad that they're wearing that kit because my sponsor's name doesn't come out. Chevrolet want as big as they can. They want to move it up. Now, whoever that sponsor is for Wolves, they're losing money on that sponsorship because no one can read it.
Other road vehicles are available.
Well, I will say this. I think it's awful. The non-contrast of the kit, and they just didn't need to wear it. They did not need to wear it, so that's why it stuck out to me. All right, fellas. There was a match this weekend that I was really looking forward to.
Let's talk about Diego Costa and what he looks like if he goes to Wolves. Is that the right signing for them? Now, he's leaving Atletico for personal reasons. He's definitely got a lack of pace. He's not the same player that left, but is that the player that Wolves need, Ben?
So you're trying to get someone for Jimenez, right? You want someone. Jimenez did that muck raking up front. A little bit more culture than Costa. I'm not really a fan of signing players on the way down and hoping that they're going to rekindle some passion. Also, I think Diego Costa, maybe not the most motivated player to keep himself in shape as a 30-something-year-old. I would say probably not, but I do. You know what's crazy? You think of Diego Costa as Chelsea. I don't think he was ever sent off for a red card, not one time. I think that is the most amazing. Yeah, I think you can look that up. That he was never red carded at Chelsea, which is insane, right? Like,
I
how
can't
much?
believe it. I'm checking it.
We'll get a fact check on that. I will ramble here. But Costa is the quintessential, you love him if he's your player. You cannot stand watching a match where he is going against your center back. But he will always occupy two center backs. He will quite literally almost like die for the team on the pitch. But I wonder about his effort off the pitch and getting older and taking care of his body. So no, I would not if I were Wolves. But
Can I read you this title? Diego Costa receives red card versus Everton after appearing to bite Gareth Barry.
Well, how many did he get? So it's okay. Well, the point is, it's way less than you would think that Diego Costa got, or maybe
I think you're right. He was very smart. He's like Wile E. Coyote, wily, savvy. He's the definition of like a savvy, street smart player. Reminds me a lot of actually Simeone, his current or now former manager at Atletico Madrid. Oh, I hate him.
All right, fellas. Yes. So answer that question. No, he reminds me of an Eddie Haskell. If you remember Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver, probably not, but like actually a bully. Like not like. Anyways, I keep saying anyways. So there was a match that I was looking forward to. My two favorite managers that are not named Frank Lampard this season are Jose Mourinho and Marcelo Bielsa. They are a continuum of football. If football is anti-football versus total football, they are on the opposite ends of the continuum. It is fire. It is ice. It is Pepsi versus Coke. It is a battle of conflicts, and it just wasn't that interesting of a match. Really. Kane and Son scored again. Newsflash, we are still stuck in a time loop. Kane assisting Son. Ben, is Kane, is this just like, is this going to happen? Are they going to break the pairing scoring record in one season? Is Son going to just never stop receiving assists from Harry Kane?
He did score again in the Carabao Cup tonight as well. Son's an absolute machine. Again, it's another team I worry about around fatigue as well. Like, not so much Son, because it looks like he can run all day, but Kane with his plastic ankles, I don't know. I wonder what happens when he goes away. But also, that fire and ice, I think Spurs also worked very, very hard in that game to close them down, make it difficult for them to pass. They make Leeds look clumsy in their passing. I think that was mostly just due to how hard Spurs worked as well. And that fire and ice comparison, it's definitely different styles. I think that Spurs just has a lot more quality in that squad, and it was the players that won versus the style, although that's Leeds' style played exactly into Spurs' hands.
I thought that Spurs actually pressed more in that match than I'm used to seeing them press. It wasn't Spurs away at like Man City where you could just bury Harry Kane on the other side of the fat. I thought they took it to him. Geoff, my question is, we have sort of like described the Kepa as like a disease. Is that your goalkeeper gets the Kepas and it's bad. But kind of worry about the Leeds keeper. I think he's kind of shit. I thought he was at fault for at least the corner goal. Did he give away a penalty as well? Maybe am I misremembering that? He's terrible. So Geoff, what is your experience when you have a bad keeper in your side? Like,
I don't know. I feel, first of all, Meslier. I don't know. That's his name, isn't it? Meslier.
I think.
Yeah, Meslier. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen enough of him, or it certainly hasn't like picked up on my radar that he's doing particularly badly. I just feel like that Leeds are just terrible at defending. Full stop. I don't know if it's poor. He looks about 14 years old.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help.
It. Yeah,
he looks like the English lad more so than a Frenchman. Like I would put him in the all lad 11 before I'd put him in the Frenchman 11.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that. But yeah, I don't really know. Has he got the Kepas? The thing is with goalkeeping, there's so much pressure, isn't there? And it can just happen any time. We're even talking about it with Mendy, like with some bloopers recently. So no idea. I really don't know. I do agree with you though that I think that I don't know if it's so much that it was a game that worked out well for Spurs. I think Mourinho had his team. He saw what needed to be done. And I think you're right. I think they did press a lot more than they normally would. They didn't sit back as much. So it's actually quite impressive the way they did that. They completely shut off Leeds' path from their wing backs and centre backs to their midfield, and completely snuffed that out as an avenue for them, and it really done it for them. I was super impressed with Spurs in this game, even though it may not have come across as the most exciting, fiery game ever. But you're right, Leeds defence, no idea. Another goal from a set piece, absolute nightmare. But is it that I think that's the bigger problem, that what might be going on with Meslier. As for Watford, as my experience with the fan, with like having a keeper as the case of the Kepas, I think we always have had really good goalkeepers at Watford. We've always punched above our weight. We've got Foster at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, by a long way the best goalkeeper in the Championship. Before that, we had Aurelio Gomez, an absolute club legend. After kind of reinstating himself after like a kind of a failed stint at Spurs. Came back. He became like he's a club ambassador now at Watford. Absolute superstar. And yeah, I think we've done all right. But yeah, I wouldn't know what that's like.
It's well, when I went from Czech to Courtois and then to Kepa, it was a quite a fall. Ben, we're gonna power through this next match.
No way. You made me visibly angry with that Meslier. Is he get a case? Let me put you in the case for why he's quality. So he's 20, right? Which is a very, very young age for.
Kepa is also like. I'm talking about the case of the Kepas. It comes for all ages. Kepa's like 21.
It's very young for a keeper, right? Especially that keeper position is something you don't come into in much later age as well, with a steady pair of hands. So he's 20. He's still learning. He cost $8 million. And I think he's been absolutely superb this season. He was only at fault for that third goal. And even then, that's harsh because, as Grubby was saying, he doesn't have a great defence around him. It was a bullet header.
Didn't he give away the pass that led to the opening goal?
So, well, what another thing he does is he's asked to play short with his feet as well. So he has to play out for the back. He has to learn that skill. And think how much they had to pay for Alisson and Edison to have that same profile of that keeper, someone that's a good shot stopper, plays well with their feet. They're paying in over 50 million for those keepers. So to bring in a 20-year-old at only 8 million and asking to do the same profile, I think you're going to get those mistakes. But I think he's been a highlight in that team, and again, someone that's probably been overperforming in that team, not helped by the the kind of kamikaze craziness that happens around him. But I think he's solid, and that guy's going to hold his place in that team for a long, long time.
Well, we're running a little long, but I will end this thing. It's when your team is shipping a ton of goals from set pieces and your keeper is not coming from the ball, like you start to notice those things. So, and then you're misplaying passes that lead to goals. Like it seems a little bit like Kepa. He early onset Kepa, right? Early onset Kepa.
His defense trusts him a hell of a lot more than Kepa.
Well, that's not saying a whole lot. Okay, quickly, Ben. Let's go through what the Southampton-Liverpool match. Really, there were two moments in this match that mattered. It happened in the second minute and happened in the 92nd minute, whatever this match ended. Danny Ings, great goal. Danny Ings, we thought he might have been out injured for a long time, has come back from injury and picked up where he left off. And Ralph Hasenhüttl gets the job done. Ben, what are your thoughts about Southampton-Liverpool?
Yeah, so I thought this was going to be the perfect game for Liverpool. I thought a high line that Southampton play versus Liverpool's fast attackers, they were just going to cut them open continually. I could see another Spurs happening. I think that you saw a crazy defensive performance from Southampton, like bodies on the line, slide tackles. I wonder if Danny Ings really meant that. It looked like a little bit of a flick to the back post. He got very, very lucky, if that's what he was trying to do, to turn, hit on the body and hit it in the top far corner. I think it's amazing. Now, it was interesting to see Liverpool not be able to score. And I know they've got the defensive problems, and putting Henderson back in defence kind of pushes through the team. Your midfield's not so creative. But you've got your two wing backs back playing well. I know that Alexander gave away so many, like he lost the ball 33 times. I think some of that is just they had the ball so much when we're putting in those crosses that's going to happen. So I don't think that's a huge alarm call. I think that's just a stat that you can pick on. I think what's interesting for me is we talked about this maybe a few weeks ago about Mane and him getting kind of annoyed when the ball doesn't come to him, and how Geoff and I were talking about this and about how he's not Mr. Nice Guy. And I think what we're seeing from that front three is they're getting very, very selfish and very, very all want to desperate to score. So what you had before is you had that fluidity, that making space for each other, doing the runs, doing the dirty work to pull players out of positions. You're not seeing it between those three as well. They're all pushing up high, all pushing up against the last attackers, not creating that space and trying to shoot on sight. So none of them were accurate. They only had one shot on target because they're rushing their shots. They're not getting the quality of chances they were before, because I think they've just all become very selfish. And selfishness is great in a striker. We talked about this last time, but it's not great in that system when you need some unselfish running, creating chances and space for each other.
Yeah, and I think when Liverpool were at their very, very best, it was a result of just like this beautiful, unselfish relationship between those front three. And I think the reason for that was that they were all in form. They were all getting assists. They were all getting goals. Firmino was scoring lots of goals as well. It's like quite often they play a game and every single one of them would either have a goal or play a part in the goal. And it's definitely not happening as much. And there is something about, like, you're right, with Mane, it's like he's trying to assert, he's like, I feel like what is going on inside Mane's head is like, oh, Salah's like the perfect prince. Everybody's prince, getting all the attention. But what about me? People are forgetting about me. I'm not getting the attention. I'm not getting the plaudits that I deserve. So I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to keep it for myself. And then that has an impact on the other players that you're playing with. I'm not saying that he necessarily started it, but I think there's definitely something about that. There is a frustration, and I think he's like out there. They're like becoming little islands on their own. And as we know, no man is an island. And I think that's a problem. And Mane did it again. There were several opportunities that he'd bring it up to the edge of the box, and I was like, you got to give it now. You got to let that go now. You got to release that ball right now. But he doesn't. He keeps it for like an extra second too long, and then it's closed down and it goes out for a corner, or they clear it out for a throw in. It was definitely a big problem. But saying that, I still felt that, like, I don't know, Liverpool really worrying me, because I've given a lot of big talk about how great I think Liverpool are and how like no one else can touch them really, or at least they're the least likely to slip up with this like weird ping pong inconsistent league. But I do think that I feel they're unlucky in this game is what it came down to. I think they had a lot of possession. Their chances were just not falling for them in the box. I think they're unlucky. They came very, very close quite a few times. But if it doesn't change very, very quickly, if they keep having results like this, because they've had they've dropped now 7 points out of 9 or something. That can very quickly start to corrode and become an issue of confidence for the team.
So I want to wrap this up about Mane. You talk about me. There is a famous basketball coach in America, Pat Riley, who used to coach the Los Angeles Lakers, Magic Johnson, coached the Knicks, coached the Miami Heat. Now he's the general manager of the Miami Heat. He coined the phrase. He actually invented the term three-peat, which is funny. He has the copyright for that. But also, he invented this thing called the disease of me. He said after you win a championship, it becomes less about the team and it becomes the disease. Everyone wants more. They want more of the ball. They want more of the plaudits because they sacrificed for the championship. And now it's time to reap reap what they sow, right, for all the hard work that they did. So he calls it the disease of me on a post-championship season, and that's why you see so many teams struggle in that post-championship. Liverpool has now achieved everything that they can, right? They have achieved the Champions League. They have achieved the Premier League, and now it's time for some of those players. I'm sure Mane wants to win a Ballon d'Or, right? I'm sure Mane wants to do these things. And so I think that potentially that's what we're hitting on is a little bit of this team has climbed the mountain and what else is there to do? And I don't know, maybe Mane wants to get a contract for Real Madrid or Barcelona Barcelona is a bunch of broke boys now, but from some other of these continental powers. All right, fellas, let's go to our winners and losers of the week. I will get it started. A club I have no affinity for. They were lucky to beat Chelsea, but I have to give it up. The Arsenal youngsters have kept the Vikings. Well, if we stay on theme here, Vikings out the gates have kept Arteta's job. Rowe, right? Has been a nice. Saka and Rowe have been a nice little. Saka's always been there, but Rowe's been pretty nice. So I'm going to give it to the Arsenal youngsters for three wins on the trot and keeping Arteta employed. Ben, your winner of the week.
So it's also Arsenal themed as well, but this is more just looking at nostalgia. So Arsenal have won 3 games in the last 7 days, but that game was the most Christmassy game I've seen. Snow everywhere, passing the ball into the net. It was like days of old as well. You could have just been roasting chestnuts at the same time, and it would have had that warm blanket feel as that second goal from Arsenal had. It felt amazing.
So it hurts my heart to say this because he's a Chelsea legend, but Branislav Ivanovic is about as old as Santa Claus, and scoring against Ivanovic now is God. He was in Russia for like years and came back. That was a horrible signing by West Brom. I have no idea what they were thinking. He's roasted. Geoff, your winner of the week.
My winner of the week is karma. Right, karma can be a bitch sometimes, and I think Allardyce is getting a little bit of taste of that. So my heart is just filled with joy. It's like a warm, cozy, furry hug to see Sam Allardyce, who has previously, and I brought it up on the pod before, he's bemoaned the fact that English managers are second-class citizens and that the Premier League is a foreign league in its own country, and that it's very Brexiteer, very otherist, very like let's put up walls to other places kind of attitude. I'd hate to think the sort of things he's saying like when he's not on national TV, and to see that he now has the problem of trying to sign 3 people from Europe that have been cancelled because of the Brexit restrictions on immigration, which he was, pushing for essentially. So if anyone deserves to have issues in the transfer market with bringing in foreign players into this foreign league in England, no one better for it to happen to than Sam Allardyce.
That is karma. Geoff, we'll kind of stake drafts it around. Geoff, who is your loser of the week?
Loser of the week.
Sam Allardyce again. Just he's the winner and the loser.
Well, I was like, earlier I was trying to think of this. I was like, can I just keep talking about Sam Allardyce?
Well, you can.
Loser of the week. I don't know. I think, despite the conversations that we've had, and my defense of him, probably Frank Lampard. Just not loser as in like, oh, you're a loser. Look, you failed. But like, he's taken a lot of heat at the moment. And the discussions are definitely starting, and they're definitely out there. Now, my personal opinion on it might be different to other people and to Chelsea fans or to people who think he's overrated. But I think like people are just waiting to pounce on Frank whenever they can, and like the people who are writing him off at the start saying, oh, he's got to fix that defense, and then he fixed the defense, and so that shut them up for a bit, and now again they've got something to talk about. He's under a lot of pressure, particularly after unfortunately facing a humming, singing Man City, who were pretty much would have been unstoppable against anyone.
Yes, and we think of winners and losers of the week. It's not that you're wearing the L forever. It's just the narrative has turned against him, right? Like Arteta had some time in that loser of the week, and now he could be a winner of the week. He is a winner of the week. So it's week to week. We like to judge these things week to week. If Frank wins 4 in the row, like he'll find himself back in the winner column. Ben, who's your loser of the week?
So I'm gonna pick my loser of the week is one of the best names in football, like literally the best name. Eberechi Eze. Absolutely class goal against Sheffield. One of those most beautiful, silky goals I've ever seen. And you know what? Not one word was said about him on this pod. Usually when a young English player comes through, Antonio Calvert-Lewin, sign him up, England's future, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. No England call up. No drumming on the door of Southgate, pick this guy, we want to put him in as well. I mean, his name alone is going to be great for tabloids. I can see it in the Sun, like, Eze win against Germany, Eze. It's going to be absolutely cut. But no one's talking. I hate this. If we see a youngster, we need to jump on him, put all our hopes for the Euros on his back. But
more pressure on these young players. We need to talk about them more. Definitely, more pressure.
And it must be something wrong with him because we're not talking about him, so he's my loser of the week.
So quickly before we go into the last section of the pod, I just don't appreciate those goals as much. Like I thought he kind of made one or two guys miss. Like I like a thunderous goal. Like I didn't think the Sun goal last year was the best goal of the year. So I am biased against that goal. Like it really didn't seem like the defenders were trying that hard. So I didn't, but as he has had a great season, he deserves call out on his pod. But Crystal Palace just aren't that interesting, and we have a limited time. But he has played very, very, very well. And every time I see him playing, I think of Ted Lasso. Like, because the kid, like, they're pretty much supposed to be Crystal Palace in that show, right? Like, it makes sense. So, yeah. Ted Lasso, great show. We don't talk about it enough. All right. So finally, guys, we got FA Cup.
Whoa. Who's your loser of the week?
Oh, God, my loser of the week. I'm going to say this. I had a great vacation, fellas. I celebrated Christmas. I did a lot of things for my future daughter. I fixed up my house, although my house is falling apart right now. But at that time, my house was kicking ass. I did a lot of grilling thing, and then I watched that Chelsea performance on Sunday, and it put a turd in my punch bowl. Just a big old turd in my vacation, where I woke up Monday morning just agitated. So I'm going to say.
And how much of a role did we play in that?
Oh, it wasn't just my friends trying to talk me off the ledge. No, it was. I lashed out at my wife because like she was on her phone during the match and not paying attention. It drives me nuts when my wife wants to watch a match with me and then she's on her phone. I'm like, just get out. And she was making me a nice lunch and she got mad at me for getting mad at her. It was just a disaster. It was not great, guys. It wasn't great, fellas. And I had a great vacation. 13 days of or whatever, how many days of bliss, and that last thing just really fellas.
You know what I see? That what I'm hearing? I'm hearing passion, love for the game, and dedication. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's true, but like when I have a daughter, it's like I can't be like just letting a 1 hour 45 minutes of an entire vacation ruin my outlook about like Christmas break. Now is like, yeah, it was great, but Chelsea lost to Arsenal and Man City and got walled by Man City. I can't think like that, fellas. I have to evolve. So poor my daughter. She's coming here pretty soon. I gotta evolve quickly. So I'm gonna say I'm the loser of the week. I am the loser of the week. I cannot handle that. I have to be more mature in my responses. All right. So we are now in the Carabao Cup, formerly the Carling Cup, formerly what are some of the other names for the Carling?
the milk
Cup. Milk. Great.
Milk. Sponsored by Milk.
Milk had a run in the 90s, right? Like they had the advertising campaigns, they had the cup. The milk farmers were really feeling themselves back then. But
you'd think they would need to make a comeback right now with all these plant-based milks taking over. You'd think now would be the time to sponsor. Bring back the milk cup.
Yeah,
give everyone a glass of milk.
Yeah. Yeah, and the concept of breakfast is really taken it. You read the nutrition's like just skip breakfast, right? That's what milk is really basing itself on is breakfast. Milk needs to advertise their way out of this, right? Like trick the dumb consumers. So, anyways, yes,
My favorite was the Capital One Cup. That was the classic.
The Capital One Cup. Yes. So we're gonna have a little break. So it's this weekend will be FA Cup. If a lot of the matches may or may not take place because a lot of the lower sides don't have sort of those COVID protocols and what's happening in London with its into lockdown. So really, we're looking forward towards not this weekend. How do you say it? How do you guys say that? Do you say the weekend or how do you say this versus next? I always say it's this weekend once you are in like Monday. Right. So Monday, I am always referring to this weekend as the calendar weekend, and the next weekend is the next calendar weekend. There's always a bone of contention with some people, this versus next.
I am so lost in translation at this point. I have no idea what I used to say or even what I think anymore about certain words. So whatever I don't even know anymore. I don't even know.
I think they both mean this coming weekend. So if I say
that's
weekend
a
or
problem.
Next weekend, that's the coming weekend. Yeah.
See, that's like I have a delineation between this and next.
And this is be like in 2 weekends time. I want to be like not this weekend, next weekend. So is it like that?
So in 2 weekends time, right? I would say next weekend. In 2 weekends time, or in a little bit of middle of the next week, we have match week 18 and 19 kind of mixed together. 3 matches I'm looking forward to the most. Villa versus Everton. Everton's on a little bit of a slide right now. I kind of called it in our mid-season predictions. Is Jack Grealish going to stop scoring, or is he just going to be the Premier League Player of the Year? Because I think minus Son, I think he's trending that direction. Right, fellas? Do we think that Jack Grealish is probably the mid-season Player of the Year?
Oh, by far. And I think he stopped scoring a while ago, but I think he's always going to be creating this league as well. I think El Gaz is going to clean it all up.
All right.
I disagree. I think the way United are playing, I can't look beyond Bruno Fernandes. Do you know what I mean? He's not only is he like that pivotal role, that talisman, the midfield engine distributor, but he's also pitching in with the goals consistently as well, which Grins isn't quite doing at the moment.
Fair. I will say both of them would be in the team of the year. I think both of them would be in the team of the year thing. So Grealish him and his Cavs are the star men in that Villa Everton game. Second, Leicester Southampton, sort of the new money, but the challengers for the top 6, the challengers for the top 4, sort of that middle tier club in the Premier League. Wolves kind of falling off of that perch right now, but Leicester Southampton. Ben, who do you think that we're talking about after this match is the side that's really going to push for that top 4?
I would like to change this title to not the mid-tables, but like the best managed clubs in the Premiership. This is the 2 best managed clubs in the Premiership playing together. Oh, I don't know. I think Leicester's counter-attacking style may play against Southampton, and I think Leicester's going to get a result, especially there as home as well, because I think Leicester for this one, just because they'll counter-attack on Southampton's high press.
Geoff, do you have an opinion on this match?
I do indeed. Only, I think it's too hard to call this game. First of all, I really don't know who will come out on top. But whichever team does, just have a think about where they're going to be in the league. And for Leicester, that might not be so much of a shock, particularly after we saw how well they have performed. They're kind of almost a revolution since Brendan Rodgers came in. But if Southampton, like in the top four, and they've just beaten Liverpool and Leicester on the bounce. I think if Hasenhüttl was crying and on his knees against Liverpool, I hate to think what's going to happen if he beats Leicester or if they finish in the top four, if they keep playing the way they're playing. So I'm more interested in like what comes next rather than what happens in this game. It's like what will each of these teams use this game to kick on to for the rest of the season. I think that's going to be fascinating.
Oh, I think I know Ben and I are both looking at if our manager situation changes next year, that Hasenhüttl, he is a prime candidate for that. So maybe I didn't love the crying against Liverpool. It's like, kind of like I get it, but kind of want I don't know.
Like
where did
it come from? I guess the thing is that like clearly like. Was it just like he was under so much pressure and so much strain in that game, and it meant so much to him? Like I've never seen a manager cry on the pitch like that, apart from Pochettino winning the semi-final of the Champions League 2 seasons ago. But this was even more than that. He was like really sobbing a little bit.
Yeah, I don't. It just wasn't. Maybe he reveres Klopp as a German manager, and they held on. But I want my head coach to be like this. His hand. I don't want crying head coach, but I just don't want it. So I don't know.
I think it meant a lot to them. So they got their coaching badges together. So they were in the same thing. So like they've been friends and come through this together. And he's played him 4 times and he's lost 4 times. And I think he's the one he's always compared to, the Alpine Klopp. And I think that mantra's around his neck. I think being out with COVID as well. I think if he could have, I think it just made a huge amount to him. It was like the thing he had to slay. And that night he slayed it, and he slayed it in the most dramatic of ways, with a goal he scored in the first 2 minutes and he just hanging on for the rest 88 minutes. So I think it was just a culmination of someone he's always compared against, someone he's had a long running friendly rivalry with, the manner in which they won, toppled with being out with COVID and et cetera, et cetera. I think it was just a perfect storm. I agree that you probably don't want your player crying after every match, like it's a rare occurrence, but I'll let him get away with this one. And I think it probably meant a lot to all the players as well, and they're human. So I'm all aboard the crying train for him.
Yeah, a very millennial style management style going forward. But all right, so the big one, the 2 most successful clubs in English football history, top of the table, which kind of not that like neither side I think is playing like a traditional top of the table side this way through, but we're in a COVID year and all the teams are not playing great, but they find themselves at the top of the table. So Liverpool versus United. Ben, how confident do you feel in your United squad against Liverpool in this match if Jordan Henderson is playing center back?
So I feel very confident, but I think the problem is this comes in a time of fixture congestion, especially over Christmas. So I don't think we're going to get the best out of either team. I know that every big match that we've played, City, Chelsea, has been a bit of a drub. 2 teams that don't want to lose. So I worry that there is so much riding on this game that you're going to see a repeat of these other top table clashes, especially with United. 2 teams afraid to lose and put the emphasis on defence, and nothing much happens. So I'd love this to be a gangbusters, blood and guts past United Liverpool, but I think it's going to be a much more tepid, much more conservative affair, and it's going to be like a 0-0, both teams finding it hard to score, and both teams absolutely knackered. But they've got every motivation in the world to go out and win this, so it might just be like adrenaline, blood and guts that change the tide.
Ben, would you say that United are favourites for this game?
Oh, it's at Liverpool, so I don't think so.
Taking form into account.
Form and injuries, right? Like you have to see, like, what's that back line going to look like for Liverpool?
You know what? Form and injuries, they probably should be the favourite.
Well,
Fellas, that's all I can say.
I mean, 2020, 2021 season, Ole, we knew it from the beginning. Ole is going to be top of the table after this. We all knew it from the beginning that Ole was going to be the top of the managerial heap. But fellas, it was a good podcast. We will look forward to match week 18 and 19 in this sort of blended fixture congested calendar. But yeah, that's all we have.
We'll know not when we meet up again. We'll know a lot more about who's good and who's bad.
I think it's all crap. I think they're all crap. It's gonna be more rakes. I think the winning. I think 70 points is gonna win you the league. That's or 75 points is gonna win you the league. That's my bold prediction going forward.
Wow. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
It's certainly more fun though, isn't it? I embrace it. The fact that it feels like the championship. You just
it is the championship.
Win 2 games and you go from like relegation battle to like battling for Champions League. I think it's great.
It is the championship. It didn't work that into the podcast, but somewhat like if you're Arsenal, like I think they're less than 10 points out of the top 4. Like and how bad it was a couple of weeks ago. They go on a 4 or 5 game. After this, they're going to be in Europe, which is absolutely bananas. All right, well, we'll see it. That's all we had. See you next week, fellas.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye.